Okay, we're 1 minute after time, but I'm going to wait 1 more minute for late starters, and then I'll get going slowly. I have about 200 slides, hour and a half of content to do in 20 minutes, so be ready, but I'll speak as slowly and clearly as I can. Thank you for all of you who are on time. That's very appreciated. I'll read you the title. I'm not going to read most of my slides. I'm going to try to just animate them. You can read what's on the slides behind me. And this presentation isn't about me, but I figure for those of you who showed up on time, I'm going to tell you just my name and how I got here. Jim Stukas. I'm a program architect at Salesforce France, as you can hear from my accent. Born and raised in the US. I've been in France for 30 years and at Salesforce for about 4. Why am I talking to you about Hyperforce? I am in CSG, so I don't have, well, I do have some inside information, but I don't work in product. I don't work in service delivery, which are the teams that are responsible for Hyperforce. But I know a pretty good amount, and it's a topic that I am passionate about because I used to help customers build and maintain their data centers back in the 20th century. I don't know how many of you were around in IT at that time. And Hyperforce is really the next generation. Why would people want to build and maintain their own data centers? But somebody has to do it, right? And I'm going to tell you about what Salesforce is doing in this domain and where we are going. That's about for me. So I've already said thank you, especially those of you on time, but I want to thank you again. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to present to you. And I'm not going to spend much more time on that. Most of the presentation is going to be spent on this next slide. It's probably the most important slide in the deck. You've probably read it before. I'm going to be talking about Hyperforce, where we are now, where we came from, but also some conjecture based on my personal knowledge and understanding, but I could be completely wrong. So do not buy Salesforce based on anything I tell you about what's coming. If you're going to buy Salesforce, it's based on what's available now. But Hyperforce is available right now. And that's one of the important reasons I wanted to do this presentation and clear up some misconceptions. All right, is everyone good on the slide? Can I move on? Because we've only got 20 minutes. OK. So this slide, I don't want to present the full thing, but this is in our standard Hyperforce deck, Genie, right? There was a presentation this morning. Genie is a strategic initiative for Salesforce, announced at Dreamforce this year. It runs on Hyperforce, right? You don't have to have Hyperforce in your core org or even your other clouds, but the Genie part, the real magic part, is on Hyperforce. So I thought it was good to just keep the slide in the deck. Going to move on though. So Salesforce, anyone know when was Salesforce founded? 1999, and we're in end of 2022. So for over 20 years, Salesforce, we've been building out our own data centers and hosting. We don't really call it hosting, right? We provide software as a service, but in data centers that we run. So we've been doing this for a long time. Started out obviously in the United States in a closet in San Francisco and has grown to data centers in 5 countries, 11 data centers, across continents, and we serve the whole world with that up until when we started rolling Hyperforce, which was announced at Dreamforce in 2020, for those of you who may have forgotten. Okay, so that's where we are today, and we've been doing this for a while. And this is again personal opinion. I could be completely wrong. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you. I think that Salesforce, we run data centers as well or better than 99% of our customers. Okay, if they were doing it ourselves. I used to do this, I won't tell you where, but I used to build, buy machines, install them, install software, and so on for a large international retailer. Why would anyone want to do that? I mean, Salesforce does it much better in terms of availability, scalability, and so on. So why do we need Hyperforce? Well, next slide is the image, I think, if you can keep this one in your mind, is I think the best. So we've been optimizing our first-party data centers. It's not perfect. I think you probably all know, the site trust.salesforce.com. Every once in a while, we have a problem, and we publish that. I think that's important. And so we've optimized. Where's the laser on here? It's probably there, right? So we're up here at the top. But as I said, we're better than 99% of customers. I don't want to get in any fights with anybody. All right, say 98, I don't know. But we know there are a few people who do it better than us, okay? I won't name them. You'll see at least one logo here, and our goal is to be on multiple hyperscalers, right? That's the term out there. And so our goal is to get up here. So what we want to do is, move from this local maximum up to the global maximum, if that's possible. So hopefully that gives you an idea of why we made this strategic decision several years ago. They didn't tell me when they started it. Then we announced it at Dreamforce 2020, and we are at a place where I'm going to talk to you today where we have lots and lots of customers already live on Hyperforce and a roadmap that is getting built out. So, I'm going to probably mention some stuff, and we all tend to, I think, go to the cloud we love, we know the most, and from a lot of us, that's core. But this is one of our problems at Salesforce, is I talked about the 11 data centers. I don't know exactly where they are and what they do, but I know that some are specialized on different clouds, what we call. Okay, so here I've got 3, I'd say, biggest clouds, but we have lots of other ones. Core, which we all know, where we got Sales Services, Experience Cloud, and so on. But we also bought a bunch of companies that have become Marketing Cloud, and they have their own data centers and stacks, and Demandware, which is now B2C Commerce, has their own data centers and their own tech stack. So what does that mean for us, first of all, in operations, is that we have 4 different stacks of security services, monitoring services, network services, build and delivery services for each of these. And this is not a full, complete picture of what we have, right? So we built all these data centers, and most of it, we think of core, but we have several different kinds. And even if we co-locate and so on, we still have the problem of tech stacks and deliveries. So that's where we are today. And what we want to get to, of course, is something like this. Hyperforce, or the other thing we call it, is Unified Cloud Infrastructure. Okay, so that's kind of a blah name, but UCI sometimes easier to have acronyms than Hyperforce. Where we have, we're going to get rid of our hardware. Well, we're not going to get rid of it. First party, I should say, one important thing. First party hardware, first party data centers, we continue to invest in them and to build them out and to add machines and migrate orgs, right? That still happens. But the goal is for all of our products to run on multiple EAS or hyperscaler vendor services. Then to have one stack for us of the build, the security, the networking, the monitoring. And then within that have functional domains which will run the apps. Okay, so we'll still have products that you can buy. You don't have to buy everything in one thing. You can buy core, and then you can buy Marketing Cloud or B2C Commerce. CDP, that's an interesting one, because that's live on Hyperforce today. But the goal is to have all of our products running on this single stack. Now, when will that be? There's no announcement. No one knows the date. We're learning a lot, but we're moving fast. So here's Hyperforce today, live. We remember in 20 years, we got into 5 countries with our first party. It takes us, I can't remember now, several months, I think 6 months to build a new data center. But we need to move faster than that, and hyperscalers will allow us to do that. So we're already in 10 countries today, okay? Hyperforce, I believe the first live were India and the United States. We have already Hyperforce data centers in France, Germany, UK, Canada, Brazil, Australia, Singapore, Japan. Not too bad, right? In 2 years from the announcement, less than 2 years, right? Because it was, Dreamforce 2020 was late in the year, I believe. Well, we're 1st of December, so 2 years ago. Concept important to know, 30 availability zones, right? So today, if you're French customers or German customers, right, you fail over between France and Germany. We use availability zones, and there's actually 3. I'm not going to get in a lot of technical detail in this presentation, but we can talk about it later. So that's a way of having, a lot of redundancy, more actually than in our first-party data centers. And it's all supposed to be net zero. Don't ask me any technical questions about that. I hope so. I think we all know where we are in the climate crisis, but that's All right, now, so here's the market. When we announced 4 years ago, we talked about hyper compatible. That's disappeared. I don't know why, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But here are our 5 main pillars, and I have slides on each of these, so I'm not going to read you the slide right now, but this is where we're going. What I'm going to tell you about, again, this is my understanding. I could be wrong, but some of these things are real today, and others are more promise. And I'll try to talk a little bit about the most important ones. But data residency, I think that's one of the key, but I personally don't care about that, but a lot of our customers do. Scalability, security, privacy, and agility. And this is the key. This is the one marketing slide I kept in. Why did I keep it? Because it has the number that I put in my abstract. There are today over 47,000 customers on Hyperforce today. That's non-negligible, I would say, as in a number. I don't know. Now, most of them are names you don't know. My suspicion is, but I don't know. As we start with smaller ones, and then we're going to move up the stack. Now, let's talk about data residency. I've got a few slides on this one, even though I say I don't care about it personally. I'm a world citizen. I'm born in the States. I'm French, and I'm a convinced European. So I don't think we want a data center under everybody's desk. That's where data residency would go if you go to the extreme, right? But today, we are in 10 countries, and the roadmap, the short-term roadmap, now I don't know if it's published or not, is 7 soon. What is soon? I don't know. Not in the next few minutes, but next several months, we're going to go from 10 to 17 instead of 5 in 20 years. Okay? Not going to, again, mention everything, but the next slide, well, why not just go to it? EU operating zone coming soon. What does that mean? So I'm a convinced European, and I also love GDPR, except for all the cookie warnings. Okay, I hope that's something you all hate along with me. The EU operating zone is something that means that we will have our, not our data centers, but our Hyperforce instances in Europe run by EU citizens, and we will guarantee you through processes that are documented and contractualized that your data will not leave the European Union. Okay, so the UK availability zone has fallen out off the slide, but that was before we launched Hyperforce, so whatever. But this is really important for European citizens, obviously, and for European citizens. And it's also, companies who want to expand in Europe, but want to go, how can I most easily respect GDPR? Now, GDPR is more of a legal thing than anything technical, but this is through process and data residency allows you to be sure that your data, your customer's data, is not leaving the EU ever, no matter what 3-letter agency in the United States might ask for it. Okay, I don't know if you questions about that. We'll keep questions to the end. I'm going to try to get through this in the 20 minutes allotted, and what I said, I have about 200 slides to go. So how's everyone doing out there? Okay, so let's talk about scalability. Now, data residency is true today, and we have a roadmap. Scalability is more, but not only. Genie is very scalable, right? I don't know who was at the Genie presentation this morning. It can support very, very high volumes. It is really depending on hyperscalability, so that you don't have to buy new servers, but not to name them, but Amazon will just provide them as you need them, right? If you need more space in the data lake, it's just going to happen, right? Data, whether it's space or processing. So we can scale. But when you're on core, we talked about hyper compatibility 2 years ago. You cannot tell that you're on Hyperforce, except, I have 1 or 2 small ways of telling if you're in a Hyperforce. It's really the name of where your instance is located. It's a 2-letter code instead of a 3-letter code. I think no, it's the other way around. It's 3 letters instead of 2, right? So you can kind of tell, but otherwise, even if you're a developer, you don't know. You're an admin, you don't know. You're a user, you don't know. It is Salesforce core, when we're talking about core. Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, et cetera. It's the same thing. So that also means today, governor limits apply, and the same governor limits. There's no change. That doesn't mean that tomorrow, whenever that is, in the next few years, that we'll relax some. With time, those things change. And Hyperforce will allow us to do this. But it also allows speed in terms of, we can put data as close as necessary to your other systems. And built on net zero sustainable energy. Now, security. This is true today and will continue to be true, but people in 20 years ago, and we still have customers today, new customers always go, how can I trust you with my data, right? Now, if you're all here, you probably know why you can trust Salesforce with your data, because we don't access your customer data. We don't have access to it unless you give it to us for a support case, or a Salesforce services employee might get access. But in general, Salesforce does not have access to the data. It's safe, it's private. But, and we have always been concerned with security and make sure that we are doing the best we can in our first party. But in first party, like a lot of traditional IT, we kind of say, oh, we're in the trust boundary, so we can trust each other, and we can just send requests back and forth between services. Under Hyperforce, that is not the case, right? Everything is encrypted, everything is authenticated, every call is authenticated between servers because now they're in somebody else's cloud, right? It's Amazon or eventually Google and Microsoft at the bottom level. But our server, the Salesforce servers, the functional domains in the slide a few slides back, those are all encrypted so that, you know, an Amazon employee cannot see what's going on. It's Salesforce, and then therefore it's your data. So security is a key part of Hyperforce. Privacy as well. Now this is, to me, very little change between first party. I mean, you know, we respect the privacy. We put tools in place to do this. You know, really basically everything is the same. The transparency of, you know, if someone needs to know, obviously you need to get under NDA for us to, we'll go and tell you and show you how it works, open under the hoods. And then agility. This is something I think, again, that we're starting to come out with things. For those, I don't know how many were at Philippe's presentation just now, you know, in terms of being able to create sandboxes faster. What we want to do is move to zero downtime. I mean, I didn't talk about why did we do Hyperforce in terms of customer needs, but we're moving more and more to a B2C scale. So you can't have 5 minutes of downtime when we have a new release, which is the case in first party. Now, in Hyperforce, we're a little bit lower, but our goal is zero downtime. So when will that come? Safe harbor. And go fast. That's where the new sandboxes will come in. And then AWS, today we're, you know, the substrate, as we call it, is AWS. And with our partnership, Philippe again went much more into detail about some of the possibilities. A lot of our customers, biggest customers, have lots of things in cloud, not always with Amazon. But when they do, now we have better integration between Salesforce and the other applications that will eventually come to sales. No, I think there's always room for diversity in the IT landscape. All right, so that's a quick overview. Now, what's reality for you? What can you do today? Well, first of all, be prepared, right? So to a large degree, it's the same recommendations we would have for an org migration. You know, don't want to hard code instance names. There's TLS considerations. So you just want to follow migration best practices. The move from first party to Hyperforce will, from a user standpoint or an admin or a standpoint, be exactly the same as an org migration, with one exception, which is the IP addresses. So allow lists. A lot of people have actual IP addresses, and there's a help page that lists all those. Under Hyperforce, that's just impossible. The IP addresses change all the time. You must put allow lists domain names, which then will obviously translate through DNS, but which is updated. You know, you don't have to do it yourself. So this is more something for your network administrators. But other than that, it's best practices as you would for an org migration. And be prepared. Prepare yourself. Read up on the notifications of what you're going to need to do. Plan this out. You'll have obviously some operations, pause your batch processes and so on. And then, I love this part, enjoy Hyperforce. But like we all enjoy Salesforce today. Now, what came out in winter is a Hyperforce Assistant. It's available today. It's not the last release, it's the first release of this assistant, but which allows you a kind of a knowledge base center directly. That's the first benefit. Will help you prepare for the migration. That's today, and there'll be improvements to this as we move forward. Soon, it's not GA today, you can schedule your upgrade. So customers can choose themselves to move and say, I want to do this at this point, at this stage, through the assistant. That's future safe harbor, but it's coming. And then as customers move, you will also want to optimize things and maybe move things around, do different things. Again, this is something that's more a future-looking statement. And that was my last kind of beautiful slide. I have some links here. Please go ahead and take the picture. I'll try to share the slides as well with the organizers so that you can have this. But these are the public-facing resources. Obviously, I have other secret information. So if you have some questions, if I can, I'll try to answer. How am I doing on time? Or how are we doing on time? Pretty good. I think we have 5 minutes, which is exactly how much I was told to leave for questions. So.
Hello. One question to break the ice. As a customer, how do I ask Salesforce to migrate to Hyperforce?
You can try a support ticket. The Hyperforce, if I go back, were you paying attention? Soon you'll be able to ask for it in the Hyperforce assistant within your org. Okay, but today it would be a support ticket. The way it really works is you're notified that it's coming, and there is a report that you can run as a customer to see if you're scheduled, because you will be notified like you're notified on an org migration. It's the same thing today, really, and it's just, and their org migrations continue to happen today within first party, but we also are migrating and will continue to migrate. So you could ask, I think, through a support ticket, but in general, you don't have to, but soon you'll be able to say, okay, now I'm ready.
So today, as a Salesforce customer, you can take benefits of the multi-tenant architecture. How is that then working with Hyperforce?
Exactly the same. So one of the big questions, or one of the FAQs, if you go to this FAQ here,
yeah,
one of the first questions is, can I choose and can I have multiple Salesforce instances and then have them all work as one? And the answer is no. It's an org strategy question. Is I want to have some data in India, or I haven't memorized a list of countries. Who did? Singapore, and then the US, and then in France, and then in Sweden. But I want them to be just one org. Well, no, you got to choose. If you want one org, you have to choose where it is. And if you have multiple orgs, you have to integrate the data that's necessary between the different orgs, right? So you're still multi-tenant, and you still have this question of org strategy. Hyperforce, at least for core, doesn't change any of that today.
And the failover is also in Europe then?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're in Europe availability zones, right? So, I mean, you look at this is Amazon, but Azure and Google have the same idea. An availability zone is just, it's far enough apart, so if one burns down or there's an earthquake or flood or whatever, it's not just one. See, our first party is failover, but here we have 3 availability zones. I could, but I didn't want to keep this technical thing. It's much more robust than the first party failover, right? 1 goes down and 2 are still working, and so no one sees anything. Whereas a failover, there's some amount of time. We've worked hard to reduce that. It used to be like 15 minutes, and I think it's down to 5. I don't know if anyone knows. But if there's a failover, which don't happen often, in availability zone 1 goes out and everything keeps working.
So it's still software as a service. It's still a SaaS solution, completely.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So let me just, another frequently asked question is, well, can I just buy my own, and I already do, I have Amazon instances that I pay for, let me just install Salesforce there. I won't say not going to happen, but it's not on the roadmap. Except there was something called government air gap for the United States, but I don't think that interests anyone here. We'll talk offline.
Okay. If you are a new customer,
yes,
is it automatic that we go to Hyperforce, or do we have to ask?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to, but you can ask. You might just be put there. You might be put in first party if you don't ask. We have internal process. So I don't even know the 47,000, what percentage of customers it is. I don't know. But today there are new customers go to Hyperforce. Other new customers don't. I don't know how that's decided. Flip of the coin. I don't know. Spin the bottle.
Yes, for the new type of sandboxes, quick clone and quick copy,
Yes.
which is an offering with Hyperforce. If your production is not on Hyperforce, you can have these features, or the production should first be on Hyperforce.
That's a good question that I'm not sure of, but what I think you can ask for a sandbox today, a Hyperforce sandbox. Did I not have a slide on that? Can't remember, but so you can have a sandbox today that's not a Hyperforce. So it is possible. I think that ideally everything should go to Hyperforce to take advantage of everything. So that's a good question. I'd have to research.
Yeah, and also a related question: if we use Scratch orgs today, what is the roadmap to move this kind of environment to Hyperforce?
I believe it's the same as Hyperforce, right? So there are Scratch orgs today that exist on Hyperforce.
Okay.
Yes. So now, yeah, so it probably depends on your dev hub in that case. So is it on Hyperforce? Then your Scratch orgs would be. And if you're not, then it's not. So you really need to move. Most people's dev hubs are on production, so that's not well, it is, but it could be a separate production, right? So you could have your production in first party and have a dev hub in that, but would go along with logically. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you again. I do have a slide for that. And enjoy the rest of French Touch Dreamin'.